everyone and welcome to Autocrat. The end.
Oh, well, thank you for listening, everyone. Wait a minute, I wrote a bunch of notes.
Hello everyone and welcome to Autocrat. This is episode 111. Like grandfather, like grandson?
Question mark.
That's why I did the intonation of a question mark. We left off last time in 640 BCE. Rome has been a state for 113 years and its third king Tullus Hostilius had just died. He was replaced in a public election by Ancus Marcius after maybe stabbing him in the face.
No, it was definitely a house fire, Ancus tells everyone. Ignore the sword with blood dripping off it, that's just an illusion.
Let's see how he gets on. Apparently, Marcius was chosen by the Interregius.
Right.
Also, Dionysius gives his name as Marcius Ancus, with Ancus being the surname.
Of course there's multiple versions.
I mean, that's not the version most people give us.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding it and his name is something like, I don't know, let's say Marcus Ancus Marcius, but I don't know. We're going with the version most people give.
Yeah. Dionysius uses the Olympiad to give his year of accession as 638 BCE.
Okay.
That either means the 2 years interregnum or Dio just got the year wrong, as he agrees Marcius reigns 24 years.
Right.
Eutropius tells us Ancus Marcius fought against the Latins.
Okay.
However, Eutropius doesn't actually tell us if he won.
Oh.
Very helpful.
Yeah, so helpful.
Well, other sources tell us he did, but still, thank you so much, Eutropius.
Thank you. I know you're summarising, but still, wonderful.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Now, Ancus Marcius was aware of his peaceful but prestigious grandfather. Equally, he knew how successful his predecessor, the belligerent Tullus Hostilius, had been. However, Tullus had one deficit. Namely, he had either ignored religious rituals or done them incorrectly to his extreme detriment, as we saw in episode 110.
Yeah.
Now, Ancus Marcius followed the precedent of Numa that bringing back religious observances was the most important thing there was. Marcius brought back Numa's religious rites as they had been abandoned and the people were eager for war rather than peace once again. The king believed it was the neglect of religion that meant all these plagues had been sent.
Yeah, I mean, this is about 2,400 years before germ theory, so this is as plausible an explanation as any.
Those plagues had taken out a large proportion of the city and King Tullus himself. Ancus pushed the Romans to restore Numa's vision of government and return to a more agricultural and pastoral way of life, rather than pillaging and warring. He summoned the pontiffs, had the religious rules written down on stone tablets and had them put up in the forum. So, the Pontifex Maximus was ordered to write out all the religious rituals from the commentaries of Numa and put the document up in public.
Sure.
Apparently, these were no longer around when Dionysius was writing.
Oh, so we lost the tablets.
Yeah. However, the rules survived as a pontiff called Gaius Papirius transcribed them after the Day of the Kingdom. It would be so cool if Papyrus was named after him.
Ah, it would. That hadn't even occurred to me when I was writing. It isn't. I have no idea about the etymology of the word papyrus, but I don't think it's that. If editing me finds out, I'll put that in here. Editing Vince here. I do actually have something on this. Apparently, the noun papyrus comes from papyrus from the late 14th century, which derives from the Latin word papyrus, meaning the paper plant, and this in turn comes from the Greek word papyros, which means essentially the same thing. It seems to be a loan word, as it's known, and it may have come from ancient Egyptian. Anyway, that's it from me. Back to the episode.
The Romans, now tired of fighting, thought that peace was inevitably close, and the hope began to spread that this was essentially Numa Pompilius II rather than another belligerent king.
Belligerent. Exactly.
The Romans wanted a break from fighting after decades of the warlike Hostilius. With the election of Ancus, the Sabines were once again kings of Rome.
Oh yeah, Numa was a Sabine, so I suppose Ancus is by default.
However, opponents of Rome figured this king was not a warlike man, just as the Romans did. The old Latins who had been in the region before Aeneas and his descendants rose up first. The Latins saw their chance as the idea of a pacifist Ancus had also spread to them. Tullus and the Latins had an agreement, but they thought this new set of circumstances for Rome might be to their advantage. The Latins had been quiet when Tullus Hostilius was still alive, but now they thought Marcius was easy prey.
Yeah, the religious guy, he's not going to fight back.
Yeah. So they committed raids and laughed off the demons for repayment, believing Ancus to be a toothless king.
Not literally.
Now, they did have the same language and culture as Rome, but wanted to stop their rise, and so they started raiding.
Yeah.
Marcius sent envoys, but nothing came of it.
Yeah, again, they thought he was toothless. And again, not literally, he didn't have a terrible dental hygiene.
However, something of the traits of Romulus also resided in Ancus. He knew that Rome being peaceful in its youth had been beneficial, but Rome could not afford that level of peace now.
Yeah.
There were already enemies testing the waters. Now, if Ancus did nothing, all his opponents would jump at once.
Well, they would.
Marcius was a peaceful man, but knew it did not do to be too peaceful.
Yeah, for that exact reason.
Being peaceful without aggression wouldn't give Rome safety, as it would leave them vulnerable to others. If peace was taken to its extreme, it would destroy them. So it had to be backed up with war!
Yay! Back to war again. Everyone in Rome thinking, wait, seriously? We just thought we were done with that.
A Tullus-like figure was needed in such a moment. Equally, he brought something of Numa to war, in that he exported the idea of religious rituals to warfare as well.
Numa probably pinching the bridge of his nose in the afterlife going, you're not quite getting what I meant by use religion to bring peace, are you, grandson?
Wars should not just be an instant thing in Ancus's eyes, but instead a formal decoration and an accompanying ritual was needed, borrowed from the Equicole people. Now, a man would stand on the border, invoke Jupiter in his capacity as an envoy, state Rome's wishes, and wish evil on himself if Rome's demands were not righteous.
Okay.
Then, all this should be repeated to the first man encountered after crossing into potential future enemy territory, as well as repeated in the forum of the enemy town.
This must have led to some very confused shepherds when Rome was declaring war.
Probably. If the demands were not met This is funny. If the demands were not met after 33 days, war would be declared with the gods invoked in a long speech.
I'm assuming you're thinking the specificity of that is funny.
Yeah.
33 days, 2 hours, 4 minutes and 27 seconds.
No, 23.
Oh, 23 seconds. Yeah, but the 24th one is when they declare war.
A spear would then be thrown into enemy territory while standing on the border. With 3 people or more, there was...
as witnesses.
Witnesses.
I misspelt.
I can see.
He spelled that wrong. He spelled that wrong.
This was first used in this war with the Latins and was employed in all future conflicts down the generation. Ancus Marcius delegated religious matters and marched out with a new army to the Latin settlement of Politorium. This was taken by the Romans. The residents were deported to Rome, as had been done by his predecessors.
I'm sure they were delighted.
Rome's population grew again. Rome had grown from originally being just a Palatine hill to now include the Capitoline and Caelian hills. Now, the Aventine hill was added to the city and the new Latin residents were put there.
Should we, at some point, do an episode or a mini-sode about the geography of Rome and where things are in the city?
I mean... yeah.
Because I realise we've got all these geographic terms and I have no idea where anything is.
The people of the latter sized settlements of Icana and Telene also came to live there.
Yeah, okay, so these people join on later after Rome punches them in the face as well.
Politorium would later be resettled and eventually attacked again, being burned down to nothing when Rome defeated them again. Meanwhile, the war carried on.
Yay!
Finally, the Latin soldiers were pushed back from the settlement of Medulia, which was a well-protected town and had a large force protecting it.
Sure.
The Latin had often sallied out to fight the Romans in front of the city, but nothing conclusive had happened. At last, Ancus went all out and won the battle. Medulia was taken, pillaged, and then Ancus returned to Rome in triumph. Again, Latins by the thousands were transformed into Roman citizens and forced to create lives by the so-called Altar of Murcia. The settlement process connected the Aventine and Palatine settlements, so clearly this is in the valley between.
Yeah.
So, the war is won!
Hooray!
Anyway, that's the short version.
Yes, but we get details. We get lovely details from Dionysus, or what do you want to call him today? John, Steve? Edgar?
No.
Not Edgar.
How about,
Oh, we're opening a book.
let's call him... Okay, there's no name there.
Well, there would be ancient Roman names there, which would arguably just be
Page.
confusing.
Let's call him Licinius.
Okay, we're calling him Licinius for some reason. Anyway, the guy formerly known as Dionysus of Halicarnassus. So, he gives us a more expanded version of this. Like we've seen, Ancus Marcius wanted to live in peace like his grandfather Numa, but no such luck. The Latins began raiding Roman cities that immediately adjoined them. Roman ambassadors demanded they stop, but they said the treaty with Tullus Hostilius was null and void, since Tullus was now dead. From what I remember, by the way, we see this model of treaty quite a bit in the ancient world, such as in the Hellenistic states. This idea that two sovereign leaders make a deal, and once one of them dies, that deal is no longer valid. Anyway, Ancus's only course of action was to lead out an army, besiege Polyatorium, and take it before the Latins could rescue it. That said, he didn't punish the population, but resettled them in Rome. Small mercies. The following year, so let's say 639 BCE, the Latins recolonized Polyatorium and began farming their lands again. This was obviously unacceptable to the Romans, people existing, so Marcius accordingly sent out another army and fought outside the town. The Battle of Polyatorium was a Roman win, so he took it again and this time destroyed it entirely.
Wow.
The year after, 638, the Latins attacked Medulla and captured it. However, Marcius then took Telene, which was an important Latin city. He did this by, again, fighting a battle, winning, and then taking the town, again taking the captives from Telene to Rome and giving them a portion of the city in which to build houses, and he also left them all their possessions. 3 years now go by. Then, in the 4th year, so in
634.
Yes, 634, Ancus retook Medulla, beating the Latins in a lot of battles that we get no detail on. He then took Ficana, which had once before surrendered 2 years earlier, so in 636. Again, as seems to be his habit, the first time he had just transferred the people out of Ficana, but the Latins had just recolonised it. Now he destroyed it, just as he'd done with Polyatorium, destroying the city and its lands. Finally, after all this, the Latins and the Romans fought 2 big battles. In the first one, they broke it off after a lot of indecisive fighting. The second time, the Romans won and pushed the Latins all the way back to the camps. No battles as such followed, but there were continuous skirmishes on both sides. The Romans generally won, under their commander by the name of Tarquinius. Keep your eye on Tarquinius. Not literally the whole time, but keep him in your mind. He's called the Tyrrhenian here, but he is an Etruscan, which is basically a synonym. And trust me, Tarquinius, also called Priscus, will come back. We will even deal with his origin story before too long. But we're going to call him Priscus from here on in. Anyway, round about now, Fidenae also revolted. Marcius led out an army and was met by an intimidated city who pretended not to know what they'd done wrong. They asked for time to hold an internal inquiry and root out the guilty, but instead of doing this, they used this time to ask for aid from their allies. Marcius found out about this and dug tunnels under the walls from the Roman camp. When these tunnels were finished, he assaulted the city using siege engines and ladders to get in. However, they put all of these preparations in a different spot to where the tunnels were on the city wall. The defenders accordingly rushed to that area, away from the tunnels, so the tunnels were opened and the city was taken, because, although this isn't explicitly said, I'm assuming they just dug upwards and the walls collapsed. Marcius took all their weapons and whipped and killed the ringleaders, and his soldiers were allowed to loot Fidenae. He then rushed to deal with the Sabines, who had also violated the terms of the Peace of Tullus and were raiding. He learned some important details from deserters and captives and made a plan.
Was it a good plan?
Well, you'll find out. When the Sabine forces were out raiding, he attacked their camp and took the ramparts at the first assault. Priscus again, was ordered to take the cavalry out against those who were raiding. The Sabines found out the Roman horsemen were on their way and so left their loot and bravely ran away. They then found out that the Roman infantry had taken their camp and so desperately tried to run away to the forests and mountains. However, they were chased by the light infantry and the cavalry and most were killed. Sabine ambassadors were sent to Rome and sued for peace. Now, the Latin war is still ongoing, so it was preferable to just get a peace. In the 4th year after this war, so let's say 630, Marcius led out an army against the Etruscan city of Veii and raided. This was in retaliation for a Veientine raid the year before in 631. Veii sent out an army which made a camp by the river Tiber, close to Fidenae, who were probably thoroughly sick of people camping outside their city all the time. Marcius rushed out and, with his stronger cavalry force, blocked off the escape routes and then forced a battle. He beat them and took their camp, leading to victory, and accordingly headed back to Rome triumphant. He's probably hoping at this point he can finally have a break. However, 2 years after, so 628, Veii raided again. We're 12 years into his kingship, by the way, and he hasn't stopped moving since. Veii wanted the salt works back that Romulus had taken off them way back in the day. I can't even remember what episode it was, but we have mentioned the salt works before. So, Ancus Marcius fought a battle close to these same salt works, won handily, and so their possession was from then on undisputed. Priscus, again commanding the cavalry, won a prize for bravery. He's doing really well so far, right? I wonder if this is the start of a meteoric rise of some fashion.
Maybe.
Marcius showered praise on him, as he knew him to be the bravest man in the army.
Such a praise.
The king also fought the Volscians. They'd been doing the same sort of thing, yada yada yada. He won, caught a load of loot, and besieged a Volscian city called Velitrae. He had circled it via a ditch and fence, and was about to attack the walls when the quote-unquote elders of the city came out with basically a truce flag. They offered to pay damages according to what Ancus decided, and that the raiders should be given up. The Sabines rose up again, but Ancus just beat them again. Dionysus also never actually finishes his war with the Latins, so I'm assuming this finished at some point during all this, but I have no idea when. Cassius Dio adds that Ancus subdued the Latins and subjugated them by force. Supposedly this happened, quote, without injuring them, end quote, but I highly doubt that. It's specifically by force.
Yeah.
As Rome expanded, its progressive neighbours became hostile. Dio's discussion of the other wars is a lot less context-based and more chaotic. Now, to round out, let's quickly look at some of our other sources who have way less for us.
I mean, Victor simply agrees with what we said.
Yeah, he sums all of this up in a single sentence.
Fair enough.
But it's better than Appian, who has literally nothing on Ancus Marcius. Appian only exists in fragments in Book 1 at this point, and Ancus Marcius just hasn't survived to the modern day. Orosius, the Christian historian, doesn't give us very much about Ancus Marcius at all. In fact, he somewhat glosses over the king period in general. All he says is that the Latins fought united under him. I guess this is after the old Latins had been stomped on. But yeah, that rounds up this section on Ancus Marcius. What do you think? Living up to Numa's peaceful ways?
I mean, not really.
Not really. He does have one or two other things he does, though. And we'll get to that next episode. We'll have a lot more peace and a lot less stomping on and obliterating people, but it makes more sense to have all the wars in this episode and all the actual calm bits next time.
Nice. Well, with that said, that brings us to the end of our episode, so we wish you a very good week.
Have a great week, everyone. And you can stop keeping your eye on Priscus now.
Oh, yes, right.
Yeah, please blink. We haven't blinked at all since we brought that up. It's been very frightening.